line with us is Judson Phillips, an attorney, the founder of Tea Party Nation. You can find his editorials over at Judson, Judson Phillips with two L's, PHILLIPS.com. And the website, of course, for Tea Party Nation is teapartynation.com. Judson, you can tweet him at Judson Phillips or at Tea Party Nation. Judson, welcome back to the program.
Hey, Tom, thanks for having me back on again.
So I understand that you guys have endorsed Paul Ryan for his role as Speaker of the House. When did the Tea Party Nation become part of the establishment?
I've been answering that question a lot recently. People go, well, Tea Party, part of the establishment? Back March 1st, 2011, we were the first group to call for John Boehner to go. And it took 4.5 years, but he went. But here's the thing that Paul Ryan has done that I've really, really liked. He has reached out to conservatives. He's reached out to pretty much everybody in the conservative or in the Republican coalition and has given them a seat at the table. John Boehner kicked people off of committees, stripped them of assignments, all kinds of things because they wouldn't agree with him because they dared to stand up and speak their own mind. And Paul Ryan is listening.
Paul Ryan has been more accommodating to the Tea Party caucus, the so-called Freedom Caucus in the House, and yet they're still obstructing his budget. I don't get it.
Well, I don't know if obstructing is the right word, but people
threatening to sabotage, refusing to vote for.
I'm sorry, but our Congress is not a rubber stamp. It's not a rubber stamp for anybody, including the Speaker of the House or the Majority Leader of the Senate. People get elected to represent their constituents, and they tell people, hey, this is what I believe. The guys in the House Freedom Caucus believe in fiscal conservatism. The government's spending too much money, wasting too much money, and that needs to be cut out.
Well, they believe in fiscal conservatism when it has to do with social programs that might help human beings. But when it has to do with programs that help the military, when it has to do with tax cuts that help the billionaires, when it has to do with programs that help the monopolies in the oil industry and whatnot, they're all on board. They're totally on board for big government, particularly and anything that might make government big enough to insert itself into a woman's uterus.
Tom,
it's true, Judson. You guys are total hypocrites. Small government is just code for no more money for black people. We've all figured this out.
Tom, no, that's not true. Here's the thing. The Great Society that we've had for the last 50 years has been an epic failure. Lyndon Johnson declared war on poverty, and if it had been a real war...
he reduced poverty in half within 8 years.
Poverty today is rampant thanks to Democratic
Reaganomics.
Policies.
Thanks to rolling back the New Deal or the Great Society. The Great Society has been rolled back. Bill Clinton bragged about it. He said the end of big government as we know it is over. He was finishing Reagan's work.
I wish that were true. Hey, listen, you and I are both old enough. We lived through the Reagan years. Reagan cut taxes. He at least slowed the growth of government.
And produced the biggest economic crash since 1929.
The economy boomed. It took off. I lived through the Reagan years, and so I remember them quite well.
Me too.
You want to talk about economic disaster? 2007, Democrats take control of the House and the Senate. Within months, the economy's in the toilet. And Obama, I like to refer to it as the Great Obama Depression because he sure didn't make it any better when they passed Obamacare. That literally destroyed employment in this country.
Oh, okay. So people having health care is a bad thing.
No, I'm all for people having health care.
And you believe that. Hang on just a second, Judson. The destroyed employment argument comes from the fact that post-Obamacare, there are a lot of people who were in the workforce who got out of the workforce, and principally because they were stuck in really crappy dead-end jobs. They were perhaps in the last few years before retirement, didn't yet qualify for Medicare, things like that. And they got out of the workplace because the only reason they'd stayed in the workplace was to get insurance from their employer. Now they don't need to do that because of Obamacare. Isn't that a good thing? It opens job openings for younger people.
Right now we have a labor force that's as small as it was in 1978. We have 94 million people out of the workforce. We have a labor force participation rate. If I remember correctly, I looked at it on the St. Louis Fed the other day. I think it was 63%, a record low.
So will you join with me and Donald Trump in calling for going back to the tariff-based trade system that George Washington put into place in 1793 and that stood until basically the Reagan years and then NAFTA?
Well, now you got two separate animals there, okay? So let's not lurch them all together. I'm a firm believer in free trade. Free trade simply means this: no taxes, no tariffs. That's it. You agree that that's going to happen. That's what we have in the 50 United States. It works great. Now, if you want to talk about NAFTA, CAFTA, SAFTA, and all these other insane free trade agreements, including Trans-Pacific Partnership, those are not free trade agreements. Those are crony capitalism agreements. All you would need is a one-page document. If you want free trade, all you need is a one-page document.
So you want the United States, you want workers in the United States to have to compete on a, quote, level playing field, end quote, against people in countries that, like Malaysia, that allow slave labor.
No, I think any nation that uses slave labor should be excluded from that. But when you have free trade agreements...
The way you do it is with tariffs.
Well, no, there's
How are you
going
to protect American industry? How are you going to bring companies back to the United States if you don't make it more expensive for them to operate overseas?
All right, one of the big reasons companies are out of the United States is because of our insane tax system. We've got the highest corporate taxes in the world. And guess what? Corporations
Judson, you and I both know that that's not true. I mean, it is true that we have the highest, not the highest. We're one of 4 countries that have, a top marginal corporate tax rate, 35% or above. But the actual effective corporate tax rate in the United States is around 17%. Over 95% of companies in the United States pay no federal income taxes. The majority of the big companies pay no federal income taxes. The reason they left the United States has got nothing to do with corporate taxes. Corporate taxes during the Eisenhower administration funded a third of the government. Now it's only 11%. So it had nothing to do with that. What it had to do with is we dropped our tariffs. Isn't Donald Trump, who is usually, I thought, in bed with you guys in the Tea Party, isn't he right that we should put tariffs, that we should be using tariffs to bring our jobs back home, to make it expensive to manufacture overseas and build an economy that's self-sufficient? Isn't it crazy that half our stuff is coming from a country that we might end up in hostility with, in China?
Well, first of all, I will agree with you that it is insane that we're bringing so much in from China. And we God, I hate to sound like I'm agreeing with Donald Trump, who, by the way, I'll just tell you, if he's the nominee, I'm voting for somebody else. I don't know who it'll be yet. But
Hillary Clinton?
No,
Bernie Sanders?
No. Well, all right. Hillary's going to be indicted. Bernie's not going to be the nominee. I don't know where the Democrats are going to go unless it's Joe Biden, but that's a whole separate conversation. But our trade policy, I will agree with Trump on this. Our trade policy is insane. Right now, we're not manufacturing anything anymore. Take Boeing, for example. Boeing wanted to sell jets to China. They're jet airliners. They're 737s. China said, fine, you got to build a plant over here to manufacture at least part of it over here. Well, guess what? China is now going to be building its own version of a medium-range jet airliner like the Boeing 737. And guess what? 10 years from now, it's not just going to be Airbus versus Boeing. It's going to be China Airlines versus Airbus versus Boeing, again, further destroying the American manufacturing.
No, and this is just one more example of probably hundreds of thousands of examples of American technology being used by, in particular, China. But my point is that those deals would not have been possible if we had kept a tariff-based trade system. Why don't we go back to America First policies?
No, I agree. America should be first, but the method that we're discussing is not how we get there.
It was supported by Dwight Eisenhower. It was supported by Richard Nixon in the modern era. It was supported by Harding, Coolidge, Hoover. I mean, it was supported by FDR. It was supported by John Kennedy. It was supported by Lyndon Johnson. I mean, name a president until Reagan came along with his idea of actually Reagan didn't even put much of this stuff into place. It really started in a big way during the Clinton administration and then with George W. Bush. But beyond Reagan, Bill Clinton, and George W. Bush, and Barack Obama, name a president who thinks that we should have no tariffs.
Well, I thought we were talking about Paul Ryan, not tariffs.
Yeah,
so if I'd known that,
right.
I would have done a little more research.
Okay, you're right. We wandered off. Judson Phillips, Tea Party Nation, part of the establishment now, supporting Paul. Thank you, Judson, for dropping by.
Hey, Tom. Thank you, buddy.
Talking with you. We'll be back.
To watch more clips from our programs, hit the Watch More Videos button over here. And please be sure to hit the handy-dandy subscribe button so you'll always be up to date. Tag, you're it.